They're good.
All right, guys, I think you can hear us. We might need to get you in the frame a little bit more, hon. You want to slide in? All right, guys, put it in the chat. Let us know, can you hear us? Is the audio okay? Put it in the chat and let us know, please. Give us a little confirmation in the chat if you guys can. Can you guys hear us? Testing, testing, testing. I don't know if they can hear us. I must check on my side.
She said we're good. Yeah.
We're good. Okay. Cool, guys. Well, welcome. Happy Friday, everyone. Good to see you guys. Rylan and I are going to do a live together in person. What we're going to do here is we're going to give something away. I think we're going to give away some data today. We'll give away 3,000 records, hand-selected market, skip trace data. We'll give it away for free. The way you guys are going to enter, okay? I want you to give this video a thumbs up first. So you first have to do that to get entered into this raffle bonanza. And then you need to leave a comment on the video, okay? You're going to comment on the video something between 1 and 100, and we'll use a random number generator at the end of this call to pick on you guys. Don't put it in the chat log. Put it literally in the comment section on YouTube for this video. And at the end, we'll do a random number generator, 1 through 100, 1 through 100, okay? And we'll give away 3,000 plus seller records. We'll scrub it with AI. We'll give you the skip trace. We'll pick the market, all that jazz, okay? Sound good?
Yep.
Cool. And we'll make sure it's Rylan's best market. He'll give that away to you for free on this call. Just kidding. All right, guys. So we're going to go through deals here today. We're going to answer questions as well. We'll do a live Q&A. So make sure you guys are throwing questions in the chat, and we'll just kind of take little breaks and get through them in real time. Before we do that, we are going to talk about a new feature that's hitting the platform. What's the release date on this?
It's 2 weeks from now.
So 2 weeks from now, we've got our slope scrub hitting the platform inside of Land Insights. I'm not going to actually show you the beta version of it currently, but I'll just, can you get your mouse on this here? There we go. I'll just give you guys a quick breakdown on how it's going to work. So, of course, the slope scrub will be 100% free to use, and there's going to be 2 different scrubbing options, okay? You're going to see, if we go here, oops. So this vacant land AI scrub, we are actually going to be moving this down into the scrubbing section here. Just makes more sense to have it in one place. So you're going to see that move down here, and then you're going to see a new toggled kind of box just like this. That's going to be our bad topography kind of quick scrub. Like if you want a quick and dirty, really easy scrub without having to put in any kind of settings, you'll just click that. It's like the dumbed down version, and it's really good. Like, we were testing it for a couple hours yesterday, and literally every property that it kept in the data set, I would 100% buy. And then everything it removed, I'm like, yeah, that's spot on, right? But of course, there are relative comparisons, or it is relative to the property. Like the slope scrub might be different for a 1 acre versus 100 acre, 1,000 acre. So you guys will also have a second slope scrub option right down here. Again, that will be free to use. And that's like the big boy version. That's the big one, the serious one, where you can get really, really in the weeds with, okay, what percentage of the property has what kind of percent grade on it, and scrub it out that way. So 2 new features hitting the platform in 2 weeks, both free, both pretty awesome. You have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, this kind of cracks the code with all those hilly, crazy topography counties. Now we can start hitting those. So I'm super excited about it. There's a growing list of counties that we market to consistently. So I'm going to add quite a few new counties with this scrub coming out. So super excited to roll it out and bring it to you guys. And yeah, it makes everything even better.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about really any horrible properties coming through your data set. So this is changing the game.
If you guys are excited for it, put it in the chat. Now, I'll say this gently, but we've back tested this against the other options out there for slope scrub, and it is a night and day difference. I mean, the accuracy difference is shocking. That's one thing that you'll always notice about any of the features that we release, in particular the AI scrubs, but really anything in Land Insights. We are usually slower to ship features because for us, accuracy, quality, and ensuring it doesn't break a bunch when we ship it is really, really important, especially when it comes to AI scrubbing. What is the point of an AI scrub if it consistently has inaccuracies in it? That kind of defeats the point. And at a certain point, your customers lose trust in the scrub when they go through it. And they're like, why is this property being shown as buildable? Or why is this property being kept in my data set? Or why is a property with a bike path being registered as a subdivide property? Like, why this doesn't make sense. And so every single scrub that we release to, we back test the accuracy pretty heavily. So yeah, we're super excited to release that. We have a huge update coming in July, beginning of July. I won't share all the details about that. But if you are a newer land investor, this is going to change the game for you. It's a big freaking deal. Mark Hudson says power line scrub, not the highest utility scrub feature for us to add currently. It will be in at some point. You know, the number of properties within a data set that fall into that category is maybe a couple percentage points. Topography, you could be talking about, depending on the county, 5 to 30% of your properties. Wetlands, again, it could be 25, 30% of your property. So we really want to start with the stuff that's highest leverage first in terms of scrubbing, and then work our way down from there. There's a lot of really sub kind of niche-like scrubs that we'll eventually add, but that one's probably not top of the list currently, but I would say at some point. Crazy neighbor scrub, that's actually hilarious. That's a good idea. I mean, you can really take these scrubbing concepts to the nth degree. Like, you can get so crazy with it. There's one scrub feature that I want more than anything, and I probably shouldn't talk about it on this call, but if you were at the event, I shared it with you guys. It has to do with subdividing. I'll leave it at that. There is one scrub that if we can build this, yeah, lights out for subdividing. If you guys are excited about this new slope feature, throw it in the chat. Let us know. Also, if you guys are going to be at the Supercars and Land event, let us know as well. Land Insights is sponsoring the entire event, so the entire team will be there. Mains, we already have the road frontage scrub. So we released that probably 3 months ago.
It was like 2 or 3 months ago, yeah.
So we already have a road frontage scrub inside of Land Insights. It's free to use. You can set your min and max road frontage length, and then you can break it down and say, hey, I only want properties with 1,000+ feet of road frontage that are on a highway or a county road, or, you know, fill in the blank, right? Whatever road you want to specify. So for example, if I wanted to do an entitlement play for a gas station, maybe I want to just get large road frontage properties on a highway. If I'm doing a rural subdivide, I probably want to remove any of those large road frontage highway properties. So you can get very, very custom with it. And again, it's free to use. And it's unbelievably accurate. It's hyper accurate. Anything you want to add to all that?
No, I'll talk about a couple of strategies we're going to implement with the new slope scrub. So as you know, there's statewide exemptions for minor subdivides for places like Texas or places like Tennessee. Tennessee is a good example. It's very difficult to target subdivide properties without the slope scrub. So what we're doing is we're going to pair the road frontage filter that we have with the slope scrub and figure out like the best average slope that we want to go for across a certain area. You'll be able to customize that with Land Insights. And then you can pick and choose in these hilly areas. Hey, everything that I'm going after, 40 acres and above, I can subdivide into multiple 5-acre pieces and be confident that they're not all steep. So this just gives you a lot more opportunity to hyper specifically target your minor subdivide areas that have topography. So that's just one thing that steered us away from going to those areas, was just the slope. But now we can pair everything together and really get the best pieces of data to go after. Since subdividing or marketing towards subdivide properties are just a little more expensive and they take more time. We just don't want to waste any time.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's interesting. I think the biggest deal killer that I see, bar none, is the quality of access to a property, both to the front of the property and then also in terms of getting to the interior of the property, like the middle of the property. And topography is one of those things that when I look at most people's deals that flop or go sideways or don't meet expectations, Topography usually has a lot to do with it. And again, it's because it's affecting the quality of the access to the interior or the access to the front of the property. And so I think it's a very valuable scrub, especially for newer folks that, for whatever reason, I see people making a lot of concessions with buying properties with wacky topography, like super weird stuff. We're going to go through and review some deals from our business. Would you guys like that? Do some deal reviews? Let me know in the chat if that sounds exciting to y'all. Before we do, I kind of want to just talk about, I don't know, some things that I'm seeing or hearing or feeling or whatever you want to call it, in terms of there's an interesting phenomenon going on right now with the gap widening between the haves and the have-nots in land. There's people that are doing better than ever, and there's people that are really struggling. In fact, there's people that are saying that the land business doesn't work. There's people saying that they need to go find new sub strategies within land. And there's a lot of folks that are kind of hopping around from strategy to strategy to strategy. So I have a whiteboard back here. I want to just kind of walk you guys through how I think about building a land business currently. Before I do, we'll call on Rylan and kind of get his 2 cents on this stuff. Also, this mouse is crazy. 2 things. We got to pay the bills real quick, y'all. So down here, you'll see our free market selection call. If you guys want to hop on a call, if you don't win the 3,000 leads on this call, don't fret. We still give away 1,000 free hot seller leads at that call link down below. We'll walk you through the platform. We'll pick a market for you, scrub the data, all that jazz, give you the data at the end of the call. Alternatively, too, again, there's a lot of folks that are kind of crying wolf saying, oh, land doesn't work anymore. And the people that are doing well, they all kind of fall into this LIA cohort. Now, I think that we've cracked the code on building a land flipping business. And for us, I don't want to sell someone on it. I want to say, hop on a call with my team. We'll literally show you what we're doing. And then you can say, yeah, this is amazing. I want to work in lockstep with you guys. Or you don't have to. But like, we'll literally show you how our strategy works. Kind of like a show, don't tell thing. So anyways, I just wanted to share it with you guys. I'll pull up the whiteboard, get that queued up. Rylan, do you want to just share your thoughts in terms of what you think about all these people saying land doesn't work, or on the flip side, there's people that are doing better than ever, and maybe your experience with them?
Yeah, so back in 2022, there was one meeting Sumner and I had together, and we were noticing a shift in the land market back in 2022, and it's just grown ever since, and we predicted it pretty well. And basically, the land business just looked a lot different than it does nowadays. But what Sumner and I were doing, we were doing what everyone else used to teach back in the day. We were going after markets in northern Arizona. We were going after markets in Texas, Colorado, those areas where there's not a crazy population. There's not that many people moving in there, and it's just super rural. We were making a ton of money in those markets, 2020 through 2022. But towards the end of 2022, we noticed a shift where those just weren't selling as quickly anymore. And we had to make a change. And that's when we came up with the idea of just tracking serious demand in land markets and actually identifying where that true demand was and where all those buyers were searching. That's what inspired Land Insights in the beginning. And that's why we created the market selection tool in the first place. And when we decided to actually target markets that had real demand and put serious effort into data analysis, we started going after great markets. And because of that, we would notice these properties sell very quickly because we could predict that. And in some of the deals we show you, you'll see how quick those turnaround times are in those markets. And that's just because we analyzed the data. We took our time on the front end with market research and then went after big deals where there was true demand. Now, the people that are out there yelling, hey, the land business doesn't work anymore, that were in the game maybe back in 2018, 2019, they were killing it back then. They didn't make that change that Sumner and I did. They didn't adapt. They didn't try to change up their business. They didn't change strategy. And they suffered because of that. And now they're just out there crying wolf, like, oh, it doesn't work anymore because I'm targeting northern Arizona, southern Colorado. And those markets just suck. Everyone realized there's no demand there. The buyers went out of the way. Everybody got off Facebook Marketplace and stopped making offers because they didn't have the cash. But in reality, those buyers markets that actually had true demand, those buyers remained and they strengthened. And in 2024, we had an amazing year. In 2025, we're having an even better year. So we're growing our business rapidly. And that's just because we're doing the correct strategy. We're actually analyzing the data and making educated decisions on where to work and how to work the business. So not only are we helping you guys out with Land Insights to follow this strategy, but also in LIA. If you guys are in LIA, we're teaching that strategy, and it's working for a lot of people. You look in the Discord over the last couple of days, everyone is going off saying, yes, the business does work. And yeah, anything to add there?
You want to share the StreamYard link, and that way we can share it on my phone and we can see the whiteboard. I'm going to share the whiteboard with you guys. The problem is, I think on this webcam you can't see it very well. So we're gonna add a second screen share with my phone, and that way you guys can really see what I'm writing on that whiteboard, because I think it's going to be very helpful for you guys. So just go down to this invite option. Just give us 1 sec while we get this set up, guys. Bang. Put that inside Slack real quick. And then just give us 1 sec, guys. I know this is not the coolest thing ever to do, but this will be helpful to the experience. Okay. Yep. We might get weird feedback, so I'll mute this one. Okay. Sumner. Perfect. Yep. Cool. Can you see that? Yep.
I can bring it to the front, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Hold this. Bum, 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 bum. Mute this one. All right, how about now, guys?
It doesn't like that.
Turn down.
Let's just move the computer right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna redo this. Can you guys hear it now? Give me a thumbs up. Better. Okay, cool. So the first thing we need to think about is skill, right? And then you have to ask yourself, are you actually working on improving your skill? Like, how much time do you put in the game to get better? You know, most people spend no time here on the skill side of things. How do we get better at skill? We review our calls. We go and do postmortems on our marketing. We review all of our numbers. We track all of our KPIs. We get educated. We talk to other land investors. We learn from them. I find a lot of people are taking action in their business. Yeah, I'm sending out marketing or I'm talking to sellers, but they're not doing any of this meta analysis, this meta review of themselves and their behaviors and their actions, and their skill in their business. And so as a virtue of that, they never get better, right? Why do people on sports teams, they not only practice the game, they don't only practice the sport, they also review game tape, they review footage, right? And we need to do both in our business. We need to think like an athlete, right? I'm not just going to go play basketball and shoot hoops. I'm also going to watch tape of me shooting hoops. I'm going to talk to my coach. I'm going to have my coach say, hey, Sumner, you're doing something weird when you dribble the ball or what have you, right? We need to do the same thing within our land business. Most people pay no attention to their skill. And I love looking at hyper-competitive industries and seeing, how do people survive in these industries? Who here's been to Las Vegas? Put it in the chat if you've been to Las Vegas. I'm sure most of you guys have been to Las Vegas. Let me know. Otherwise, this analogy won't make sense for you guys. Who here's been to Las Vegas, Nevada? Put it in the chat. Come on now. Let me know. No one's been to Las Vegas. That seems impossible. Okay, Kay Walker's been to Las Vegas. One of the things that you'll see if you spend any time in Las Vegas, you'll see so many billboards for injury attorneys, right? Las Vegas, Nevada is one of like the craziest injury attorney cities, and Nevada in general is a huge injury attorney state. They're all offering roughly the same service. They're all running billboard ads and running Facebook ads, whatnot. So what is the differentiator, right? Why are some people crushing and other people aren't? There is this one guy, I can't remember his name. There was this one guy, though, who's a personal injury attorney in Las Vegas, who was doing so well, he bought Post Malone's Bugatti. He was crushing. He was doing like 5x what the other personal injury attorneys were doing. And he's offering roughly the same service, right? Much like in land, we are roughly offering the same service to a seller. So the delta in results is skill, right? And pretty much every part of this business has some level of skill involved. So if you think you're going to go through a program and you're going to, hey, I'll send some marketing, I'll talk to some sellers, and this business should just work, you're going to be sorely mistaken, because there is a huge skill component. Me taking a call versus you taking a call probably looks a lot different, right? So I always tell people, you need to skill up. And if you're not spending time here, you're going to be without a paddle in a very dangerous river. And don't let anyone fool you. There's a lot of opportunity in this business, but there's also a lot of risk. Where there's opportunity, there's risk. You can lose all your money in this business. You could go into credit card debt. You could do really silly things that could get you really, really hurt, right? My least favorite thing to see is people that get into land and they're looking to throw a Hail Mary. They say, I need my life to change tomorrow. So I'm throwing caution to the wind, screw skill. I'm taking a lot of action, and I hope it works out. Well, that strategy used to work, right? When there was really easy arbitrage in this business, you could kind of be sloppy and get results. And that's why everyone is complaining. They're complaining because they're used to an old mode of operating, which doesn't work anymore. But it still works if you can just skill up. Just get a little bit skilled and everything changes. So let's talk about what that actually looks like. Okay, I'll start breaking it down and giving you guys specific. You guys have heard me talk a lot about market selection before. But I'm going to break this down a little bit in a little more detail. So the first area is market selection. So the U.S. has 3,000 counties in it and like 40,000+ zip codes. When people say this business is competitive, what they're really saying is the market I'm working in is competitive. Not all counties are the same. It's not like equal competition in every county. So yeah, if you're working in whatever, outside of Dallas, Texas, or outside in Bastrop County, Texas, or all these classic places, yeah, it is competitive. But the markets you work in, the difference in competition is very relative, right? The land business has gone through a weird cycle. And we have to remember that real estate is super cyclical. I'm not an economist, but I've seen this business go through multiple cycles, and it will continue to go through multiple cycles. Times where it's really easy to sell properties, times where it's really hard to sell properties. And we're in an interesting cycle right now. Rylan said 2022. That was when this business really changed. And something very weird happened in 2022, okay? Middle of 2022, interest rates went up. People had less disposable income to buy land. People wanted to get loans, but they couldn't really get loans. The math didn't make sense anymore. Some places just halted all loans on land. And so it was harder to dispose of inventory. And then we still had sellers that were caught up on prices that were unrealistic because their prices were based off of the pandemonium of 2020. So like there was this really weird mismatch, like hard to sell deals and sellers have crazy expectations. And some of that still persists. We've moved out of some of the seller pandemonium. I find right now, in my opinion, it's very easy to acquire deals. Would you say the same, Rylan?
Yes.
I'm not having any trouble acquiring deals, like at all. We're locking up contracts like clockwork. So far this month, one acquisition manager has already locked up 5 contracts, and that has a total value of $300,000 or something like that in gross profit. That's just one acquisition manager. That's 13 days into the month. You know what I mean? So it's very easy to acquire contracts from what I'm seeing. And I'll talk about what we need to focus on to make that happen. But it is very hard to dispose of land right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world. So dispo times are taking longer. So it's even more important that we're working in the right markets, we're picking the right realtors, and we have best-in-class listings, right? You got to check those boxes. Those are all skills. Those are skills. You need to adopt those skills, and you need to continue to sharpen those skills. So right now, finding it's a bit hard to dispose of land, okay? Anyways, market selection. That's the first thing. What are we looking for with markets? I'll tell you guys right now. We are looking for what I call honey holes. Kind of a weird way to break it down. But I like this. I like that example because I don't know, it creates a cool visual for me. Put it in the chat. Who here knows what a honey hole market is? Anyone want to take a guess on what a honey hole market is? Anyone? Honey hole market. What would make a honey hole market? What is that? Someone take a crack at it in the chat. Anyone? Rylan, do you know what a honey hole market is?
I demand.
But
supply.
Yes. The way I think about a honey hole market is, okay, he says the place you go to make mega bank. Aaron says great submarket and maybe a not so great county. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. No, a honey hole ultimately is a non-obvious high demand market. I want you guys to think about that. Non-obvious high demand. Non-obvious high demand. This is a game of arbitrage, right? I'm arbitraging information initially, and I want to arbitrage the information in terms of I know something that someone else doesn't know. As in, I know this random market in New Hampshire has so much demand, and other people don't know that, right? That's what I'm looking for. And that was why Rylan and I initially built Land Insights. Can we find non-obvious high demand markets? The origin of Land Insights was so janky. We hired VAs to go and get this data manually for us and go and find and track states and track STRs and inventory and all that stuff. Because most people on this call right now, whether you guys realize it or not, Winnie the Pooh, that's funny. Most of you guys, if you don't realize it or not, the way you select markets is with some kind of cognitive bias. The bias is, I live in Texas, so I'm going to market the properties in Texas. Or I heard Florida's hot, so I should work in Florida. What was your rhyme or reason for picking your first market?
I think you just told me to work there. Yeah, literally.
Cool.
Sumner literally told me to work in this market.
And I told him to work there because I had done a deal there. But what a crappy process, right? Oh, you should work here because I did a deal here. So people come up with all these weird reasons as to why they're going to work in a state. You know what I mean? We talked to a guy yesterday who just joined Land Insights, and I'm not saying this is a knock on him by any means, but he's been sending 25 letters a month for the last couple of years, I think about 5 years or so. And he only works in his backyard. He only works in the places that he can drive to. That is a constraint. That is not a positive constraint, right? That's an unnecessary constraint. And it's just because we don't know how else to select a market. And so that is the whole origin of Land Insights. So the first thing is we need to find a honey hole. And the way we find honey holes is we look for the right levels of supply. We look for the right level in terms of sell-through rates. And we usually look for low Gini index markets, okay? That's what I'm looking for. Once I find a honey hole, what I need to do is I need to put my ear to that market and I need to listen in terms of how that market wants to be fractured, okay? If you're on this call, you're probably doing blind offers or range offers or something like that. You can have the greatest market ever, but if you send the wrong offer to someone, you're SOL, right? So we need to have accurate offers. Inside of LIA, there's 4 ways that we teach our members to fracture markets. And again, the market will tell you what it wants. It's either countywide acreage ranges, it's either zip codes, it's either subdivisions, or it's either polygons. There's other ways to break up markets, but those 4 have the highest bang for our buck, the highest ROE, return on our effort. So we get a honey hole, and then we fracture that market. Fracture. Boom. And on top of that, the next thing that we're going to move over here, so we've got market selection. The next thing that we have is data. Okay? This is ultimately a data business, as we know. Like we live and die by the data that we have. First off, we need good data. That kind of goes without saying. But if you're using like a prop stream or I don't know, sorry, I'm not trying to knock on prop stream, but There are tools out there that have really outdated land data. It's just not super fresh. That's going to get you in a pinch. Rylan, I know you use PropStream for a point in time. What was the data like for you?
Very outdated. It's not worth saving the money to have invalid data, because then you're spending a bunch of money on your mailers on it. So one bad piece of data is 58 cents, and then also the time on top of that you spent putting into it. So that stacks up if the data is poor. So it's super important to have the best quality. Yeah.
So we need high quality data. So I'm just going to call this HQ, okay? High quality. The next thing is we need to filter our data. There's two kinds of data filters I'm going to teach you guys about here today, okay? We have what I call ownership filters, and we have physical filters. What do I mean by this? Okay. Ownership filters are what I call like motivation filters, right? This is how we filter our data set. So we're marketing to hopefully the right people. What's an example of an ownership scrub? Length of ownership, interfamily transfer, out of zip owner, out of county owner, last sale price, as in they bought it at beneath market value. So I can make an offer where they're going to be profitable on that sale, right? That's what I call ownership filters. Another classic one that a lot of you guys aren't doing is filtering out people that are never going to sell you land. We call these exclusion filters in our data set. As in, who here is still marketing to the Bureau of Land Management? A lot of you guys probably are. The poor BLM is getting like 10,000 offers a month. The Bureau of Land Management is never going to sell you their properties, ever. Under any circumstances, never, ever, ever, ever. Same thing with PG&E. Same thing with Walmart. Same thing with waste municipalities. Same thing with counties, cities, whatever. They're never going to sell you land. So remove them from your data set. Stop wasting money on the wrong owners and unmotivated owners, okay? Back in the day, you didn't have to do this stuff, right? You could be so willy-nilly with it and still have a positive return from your marketing. When I say that like we need to skill up, like these are the kinds of skills I'm talking about. This stuff isn't rocket science. It's not extremely difficult. It just takes some thinking. It just takes a little bit of brain power, right? And unfortunately, I think a lot of people have been sold this hope and dream that this is like passive income. You know what I mean? I saw an ad last night for this person teaching land, how to wholesale land. And they said, make money without having to work. That was literally the ad copy. What kind of crazy statement is that? Like if you're bringing people in under the wrong expectation, okay? The next thing is physical scrubs. There's a lot of properties that we market to that we never want to buy under any circumstances, okay? Like we were talking about, topography scrubs, flood zone scrubs, wetland scrubs, landlocked scrubs. If we're buying subdivided inventory, road frontage scrubs, right? Scrubbing this stuff out on the front end so we remove it.
Roughly 45% of your data set contains one of those.
So 45% removal. And then for ownership, it can range. It could be from as low as 10 to as high as 30% of your data that's going to get removed. So pair that together, you have somewhere between 55% and 75% of your data that you should never be marketing to under any circumstances ever. A lot of people aren't even doing this.
My first mailer that I ever did, obviously none of this technology existed, none of these filters existed. We were making money doing this, and people still don't remove any of these. They still don't do the filters, they still don't do the ownership records, and they're failing because of that. Yeah. Those are the people that are calling out that the land business doesn't work. That's because they're not adapting. They're not removing all the fluff so that they can increase their ROAS.
Yeah. And this stuff, like to me, I don't mean to be critical. I don't mean to be mean, but I feel like if someone just spent a weekend not doing, but just thinking, just doing a review on their business and just thinking about where are the points where things are breaking and not working, you would come to a lot of these conclusions. It just takes the quality of thought, quality of thinking, just to meditate on these things, let them marinate, and answers start coming to you. You know what I mean? So this is a really easy way. Honestly, this here could take you from an unsuccessful land investor to a successful investor. But we want more. I want more control than just that, right? I don't want to have my business just rely on one thing. So we're going to move over to the next category, Okay. Next category is acquisitions. Now this comes down to two components. This comes down to skill and this comes down to process. Okay. Skill and process. Unfortunately, most people have no skill on the phone. That's okay. It's a skill we can learn. Contrary to what you might think, when I first got started in this business, I had no skill. I was scared out of my wits to call people. I was so nervous. I felt like such an imposter. I felt like such a fraud on these calls. I didn't know anything about land. I'm like, why would anyone trust me? Right? We have people inside of LIA that go through that all the time. What I tell them is get on these calls and just get curious, right? You don't need to be a slick salesperson. You don't need to be like the smoothest operator ever and well-spoken. All you got to do is get on there, get curious, ask good questions, get them talking and learn about them, right? What we're trying to answer are the 3 whys that we teach inside of LIA. Why do you want to sell now? Why haven't you sold before? And why not sell with a realtor or list it yourself? And what we're looking for is someone that has a need, someone that raises their hand and has a need. And if they have a need, then I'll stay with them forever because I know there's a problem there that I can help solve. If they don't have a need, cool, don't need to bark up that tree any longer, right? What you don't want to do is start calling sellers and saying, wow, does your property have a flood zone? Does your property have utilities? Does it perk? No, that is not how we make a conversation. It's not how we build a connection. There might be pertinent things that we have to ask. I'm not saying never ask anything about the property, but when I listen to most people's calls, they're just going through like the finer details of the property. 1, the seller typically doesn't know. 2, you're not going to understand the seller's root motivation. And 3, the seller is going to look at you and say, you haven't done your homework, right? So all I need to do is just get curious and I need to drop the expectation, right? The people inside of LIA that lock up the best deals, ironically, it's always on the leads that they think that there's nothing there. It's on like their crappier property that they have to renegotiate super low, or it's when the stakes feel low that they often get the deal. And that's because they just drop the pressure on themselves. They drop the expectation. They're just there chit-chatting, hanging out, being normal, making a connection. And oftentimes that's when we get the deals. So that's the skill component. Again, we can just learn that, right? Talk to them like they're your neighbor. You know what I mean? Don't come in all weird with this agenda that people can feel when you're trying to push them to do a deal with you. I'm just trying to unearth, do they have a need? If they do, great, I'll help them. If not, I'll move on. The next area is process. Now, honestly, you can be so bad on the phones. I think process compensates for almost everything, right? So I'm going to highlight this. What's the process that matters for acquisitions? Really simple. What's the speed for me to connect with a new lead? How long does it take me to connect with a new lead? Out of all the leads I get, what's the percentage of them that I actually get on the phone, right? For most land investors, it might be 60, 65%. So there's a lot of leads that we're never able to connect with. So connect with more people. You need a process for them. When a new lead comes in and you call them today and they don't pick up today, and you call them tomorrow, they don't pick up tomorrow, what's your step-by-step process? What is the sequence that you're going through? That has to be systematic, okay? It can't just be what you feel like doing or if you remember that day or forget that day. That needs to be a process. The next thing is how long does it take for a new lead to receive a verbal offer, okay? Then from a verbal offer, how many of those leads get sent a contract? Then once I send a contract, what is my process to nurture them until we get to a breaking point? They sign or they say, I don't want to sign. Well, we need to keep on nurturing them to kind of get to that fork in the road. The next thing is, well, what do I do for all the people that I wasn't able to get on the phone? Because of course you might be able to try to maximize your pickup rate, but we're never going to be at 100%. So do you have drip campaigns, automations you can put your colder leads on? What about the people that you sent the contract to and they ghosted you and it's 3 months later? What's your process for that, right? Everything needs to have a system to maximize those levers. This business at this point is just math, okay? How many people do I connect with? How long does it take me to connect with them? How many get a verbal offer? Out of those verbal offers, how many get a contract set? And out of those, how many get signed? In our business, most of our math, it halves. It drops by 50%, right? So I might get, hypothetically, 300 people. Like I got 300 leads that I connected with this month. Out of those 300, maybe like 140, 130 were deemed hot leads, like they have a need. Out of those, maybe 70 received a verbal offer. Out of those 70, maybe like 35 to 45 got a contract sent to them. And out of those, usually about half of those end up signing for us. So they're bing, 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 bing. Most people's numbers don't look like that. Most people, they use this weird gut instinct process. Well, I didn't really like the property, so I didn't make an offer. What do you mean you didn't like the property? It doesn't matter. You make an offer no matter what. Or I made the offer and the seller didn't say yes, so I'm going to wait to send them the contract. No, it's not up to your own discretion. It needs to be systematic. You need to make sure that math is getting plugged in. Honestly, these three things here, if you can master these, you're going to be in a good spot. You're not going to have the biggest business ever. You're not going to be the most successful land investor. But like this is kind of the recipe for success in the beginning. There's a few other points that we're going to touch on. But these are the three areas that we need to develop a high level of skill. This is why inside of LIA, the 12 months that we work together inside the group coaching program, this is what everything is centered around. Our 11 coaching calls per month, they're centered around this. The 300 hours of training content inside of LIA is centered around this. Because I found that this is the lever that drives results for new land investors. So we want to put all of our focus on it. We want to review your markets, review your pricing, review your deals, review your seller calls. We want to review all of it because this is what drives success in the beginning. The next thing, and this is becoming increasingly important in this market, is dispo. A lot of people have picked up really bad habits with dispo because it was easy to sell deals. So like if back in the day, if you did everything right in these three buckets, you would list a property and boom, it's gone. Right? Do you remember those days?
Yep.
You list something, gone. Listed 3 offers. Like it was just so easy. But people have picked up bad habits. And again, this stuff is cyclical, right? You're gonna have peaks and troughs in this business. I don't want to be a victim of those peaks and troughs. I don't want to do well when the market's doing well and bad when the market's doing well. I want to have some kind of control over my destiny. Of course, this is still going to affect me, but I need to control the controllables so I don't fall victim to this cycle. Okay, so what matters on dispo? Well, first off, I think in this market, you're really not selling deals unless you get buyers to the property. So that says that we probably need a realtor to show the property, right? How many times do you get an offer on a deal where the buyers never visit the property?
Very rarely.
So rare.
Yeah.
Back in the day in the COVID pandemonium, I had people buying deals from us that had never been to the property, lived in a different state, they didn't care. There was such a hunger, such a huge appetite for land that people were just gobbling it up. Hey, I live in Silicon Valley, you got this deal in Arizona, I'm buying. No questions asked. But that doesn't exist right now. That might happen again. So we need to show the property. Cool. That means we need a realtor, right? And the quality of that realtor is a make or break experience for our results, right? Our dispo slowed down at the end of last year. I was like, why are our sales slowing down? Well, sure enough, I started going through and my team started to get a little bit lazy with some of the realtors that we were working with. Just not great realtors, right? They weren't calling people back. They weren't showing the property all the time. Sometimes they weren't sending us the offers, like just a lot of sloppiness there. So we need a high quality realtor. That's why inside of Land Insights, we built out a realtor database for realtors and for double close agents because it's so important in this market. And that database is 100% proprietary to Land Insights. So that's the first thing. The next thing is tracking, okay? In a typical arrangement with a realtor and a landowner, the realtor is the expert, typically. When a realtor works with us, it's inverted. We're the expert, the realtor works for us. So there needs to be a process that they're walking into, and we need to track and manage them, right? So bi-weekly, we send out a tracking report to our realtors that they fill in for us, and then we consult based off of that. Hey, you had 5 showings, but you haven't followed up with them. Or we had 2 verbal offers, but you never got a contract on those. We need to work those, right? So I'm not putting like blind faith in the ability of my realtor. I'm saying, you're a realtor, you're coming into our process. You're going to be like a contractor for us, and you're going to follow our process. And if they don't want to do that, they're not the right realtor for us. So we let them know on the front end, this is how we work. If you like it, great. If not, okay, we need to find someone else. The third point is marketing. You could have the best property ever at the best price, but if it's not getting clicks, views, saves, it does not matter, right? There's an internet marketing component to what we do here, so we need great marketing. Your marketing has to get eyeballs. It has to intrigue people enough to save it, to then reach out to the realtor, to then schedule a showing. If you're not getting people to your properties, you're not going to sell these properties, right? The way that we do that is 90% visuals, 10% copy. So we have phenomenal visuals on the properties. There's a set sequence, a set SOP for how we want our photos taken and for how we design and edit our photos. We do all the design and editing within Land Insights. We have the realtor follow our drone SOP from LIA, so they know how to take the photos. We edit the photos, we give them back to them. There's a very set sequence in terms of what your cover photo needs to look like and what the 4 other photos that follow behind it have to look like. There's a lot of people, I would say like literally 9 people out of 10 are not doing this right. And then they wonder why their deals take a while to sell. Now, of course, the market that we've selected does play into our dispo. They are interlinked. But again, you could be in the greatest market ever with the greatest property at the greatest price. If you're not doing these things, you're really going to struggle. It's going to be very hard to move your properties. And you can have a boatload of inventory, right? But if your deals aren't selling, what does it matter? Like this week, we're locking up deals. We've got a big inventory. We've got a lot of new deals hitting the market. But I didn't get any deals sold this week in my business personally. That feels like a losing week. I'm like, oh God, that feels terrible, right? You need that volume of inventory turning over. And so you're broke if you have all these contracts signed and they're not selling. It doesn't really matter. So we need to crack the code on this. The 10% is the copy, right? How we actually structure the listing. It's got to give the pertinent information that someone would need to know about the property. And it's got to have a call to action in it to take them to encourage them to take the next step with us, right? This is just classic internet marketing 101 that needs to be applied to our dispositions. That's the framework, right? Now, is this going to make you a 7-figure land investor or whatever? Probably not. But this can absolutely get you to 250K to maybe like 400K. There's a guy that lives in Rylan's land house. They call him Grom. He's a LIA member. He joined LIA when he's 20. He just turned 21. He's got no team members. He's crushing it because he follows this process. He's got this down pat. Now, of course, we got to work hard, and he works really hard. But hard work is kind of like a moot point if you're not working hard in the right areas, right? And so these are the areas that we're going to be putting our time and attention to. And if you're not consistently upping your skill set in these areas, what's the point? You know what I mean? Rylan, feedback on that?
Basically, if you're missing just one of those, that could derail your whole business. So like we laid all these out, but keep in mind, each one has equal importance. If you're missing one, that's where I see things going wrong. If you have an incredible market selection and data export process, but you can't do sales at all and you don't follow up and you don't even have a CRM, you could just fail. Vice versa. If you are really good at sales, but you didn't filter your data, you're getting all these horrible properties coming through to you. You're wasting time and energy on deals that are not actually deals because they're not worth anything. So they all have equal importance. So I can't stress it enough. Make sure you're dialed in on each one of those pillars. Questions? Let's see. Ed asked, what's a low Gini index market? So a low Gini, basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys don't understand what this is, but I'm going to write it out. So let's say there's 5 acres. So we're looking at 5 acres. We're trying to determine what a 5-acre piece of property is worth in a county, okay? A low Gini is going to tell us, based on all the comps in our data set, how close together the values are on all those comps. So if one's worth 50K, another is worth 55K, another is worth 47K, that's a low Gini. That's telling us it's all really close together. But if there's a 5-acre on the west side of town and a 5-acre on the east side of town, and there's different like cities nearby or different like mountains going on, it could really skew that data. And a 5 acre on the west side might be worth 30K, and a 5 acre on the east side might be worth 90K. That the Gini would tell us this gap. So basically, the importance of Gini is just showing how close together are all the sold comps in that area. So what we do with Land Insights, we just aggregate all that together, and you can analyze that in market research and determine, oh, this place is low Gini, which means it's going to be easy for me to price it and make accurate offers. Whereas the high Gini markets, I don't really know what I'm offering because the west side is worth 30K, the east side is worth 90K. How do I come up with an offer? So we just try to avoid that situation altogether with Gini and analyze the Gini up front so that we make accurate offers, because making accurate offers is very important, and it should be on those pillars. Offers are important, so that's just one thing to know. Now, in terms of low Gini percentages, I make it relative to the area that you're working in. But generally, like if you're below 30% Gini, it's going to be decently easy to price, but the lower the better. And that's just an index percentage that you're going off of. But ideally, like if you can get under 20%, that's nice. But 30%, it should be decently okay to price. And then you can combat Gini by just splitting up, like Sumner said, fracturing your data set. If you determine that the west side is cheaper than the east side, then you can just fracture that and do an export or export by zip code and then price it all in that relative area rather than pricing the whole county and messing up horribly.
Victor says, would you recommend SMS marketing campaigns? What would be a good budget for SMS?
I mean, look at all marketing channels work, right? Whether it's direct mail, cold calling, SMS, RBMs, even PPC, they all work. They all have pros and cons, right? If you're doing SMS without a team, I think that's a bad idea. I would rather start someone with a higher quality, lower volume channel, mainly direct mail, maybe even cold calling potentially. You're going to have a pretty big cost running texting to build out a team and do it right. And so for most people, they can't foot that bill. And it's a hard recurring cost, right? You're going to get hit with that every single month. We're like mail, you can slide it up and down, right? Your cost is flexible. With mail, typically you get higher quality leads, but a lower quantity. So without like running texting without a data person, a texter, and an acquisition manager, for most people is kind of a suicide mission. So usually I like to see people start with mail, build some success, then add on texting, then add on cold calls. So it's kind of a sequence you want to go through. Most people that are like solo trying to do texting, it just doesn't work, right? You're grinding to get all the data, you're grinding to send the text, and you don't have any time to talk to these people. With a like texting, you're going to generate a high quantity of leads, but very low quality, right? So there's not a lot of trust there. So like you need someone full-time on the phone really working these people. So if you're new, Victor, and you don't have a team, no, I would not recommend learn how to do something that's more proactive as a marketing channel, like mail or something, and kind of work off of it from there. But it works, you know. In terms of a budget, I mean, look, you probably need to be sending at least 30,000 texts a month to have any kind of consistency. You need how much does 30,000 texts through launch cost through launch control?
30,000 per month.
Yeah.
I don't want to falsify numbers. Maybe like 800 per month.
All right. Let's say 800 to 1,000 for the subscription. If you're running 30,000 texts hypothetically, you're probably pulling about 60 to 70,000 records a month because you're scrubbing about half of those. That's going to cost you a lot of money. Like if you're at 5 cents per record, let's just say you're spending, I don't know, $3,000, $2,000, $1,000. I don't know. You're spending money, right? Then you got to skip trace all of those. That's another couple $100. Then a texter will probably run you about $1,500 a month. And then you need someone on the phone, it's like an acquisition manager. It'll probably cost you $2,000 to $2,500 a month. All of a sudden, every single month, you're ponying up like $6,000. You know, it's a lot of money, and you're on the hook for that. So I don't recommend starting. Look, if you have no money, pick up the phone, right? Get a highly motivated niche list with good data, with ownership scrubs and physical scrubs for high value properties, and just start calling people. I guarantee you, if I did that for 30 days, I could lock up a deal. No question. It would be a grind. It'd be a super grind, but you could do it. If you have some money, I'd recommend starting with mail. Again, it's proactive. You can do it whenever you want. You can build up these mailers whenever you have to, and you're going to get a low quantity of leads with high quality. I know Kay Walker's on this call. She's a good poster child for like mailing correctly and what that looks like. She puts a lot of time and energy into her mailers, a lot of time and energy into her data, but you don't need to send that much mail to have like a good business. You know, you could spend like $3 to $4 grand a month, and that's flexible. If you wanted to turn it off one month, you can. You can turn it back on. You can scale it however you like, and it's not like you're going to be drowning in work. Like once you turn on texting, you've got to be available 24/7. That's why you need a team. Mail, you really kind of control your own destiny. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I do like texting, but once you have a team in place. What other questions you guys got? Throw them in the chat. What else? Anything? Put it in the chat, guys. And if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up if it's been helpful. It goes a long way. If there's no other questions, we can look at some deals here together for you guys. No questions? Okay, cool. Let's look at some deals.
All right, so let me make sure I'm sharing. Perfect. All right, so Sumner and I pulled just a couple random deals that we've done recently. So I've got a few here. I'm just going to pull a random one. Okay, so this deal was in Sampson County, North Carolina. As you guys know, North Carolina altogether has some really good demand, really good sell-through rates, really good demand for properties, but there's a lot of competition in these markets nowadays. And I've been kind of steered away from North Carolina just because people are here trying to get it. It's been difficult to get North Carolina. Okay, we're lagging a little bit.
Texting to you might speak to them. I've obviously never. What I've seen to most of these outsourced texting agencies or cold call agencies, the results are mixed. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them, to be honest, but I don't know any big time land investors that are outsourcing their marketing. Marketing is such a huge component of this business that a lot of times you're outsourcing it to agency owners, not true land investors. So there's like a real in terms of them being on the cutting edge. Again, I'm not speaking for that. I don't know about that company, but that's just what I've seen. So, you know, take that for what you will. If I were to outsource to a company, I would want to make sure that this person is a land investor. They themselves are in the trenches. They're on the bleeding edge, because the way that Rylan and I do texting now, I can guarantee you looks different than how most other agencies or most other people do it, because we're on the absolute bleeding edge of it. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. I would rather always bring things in-house. Your cost per contract's lower, your cost per lead is lower, and you have way more creative control. Again, that's just my feedback. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
No. Okay. All right, so this is a deal that we sold recently. We approached this guy. He owned 2 properties. So this is the actual owner now is the person who bought it from me. But we came to this owner. He owned this piece and he owned this piece. And this one's 10.8 acres. This one is 14.8 acres. And we just made a collective offer of $90,000. And this market, I remember it had really good sell-through rates. So I was just confident based on after I comped it that I could just buy it cash and resell it really quickly. So I decided to just buy it cash. And I'll show you the sell-through rate metrics. So 10 to 20 acres in this area, the 1-year sell-through rate is 172%. So currently there's 11 active and 6 pending. I saw these numbers back when I bought it, and it was very similar to as it is now. I was like, shoot, let's just buy this. Let's lock it up, make sure nothing falls through, and then resell it. So we bought this in October 14th, 2024. We made an offer of $90K, got a purchase agreement signed, and then we came back to him and said, hey, can you actually do $80,000 for this? Because our realtor went and looked at it, and this was all tobacco that was being farmed, and it was the land was just all jacked up. But I still knew there was value, but we had a negotiation point, so I offered $80,000, and we ended up buying it at $80,000, and then we turned it around 31 days later and sold it for $150,000. So that was $70K profit in 31 days. So pretty solid. I was trying to sell these separately, but when that offer came in for 150, I was like, let's just take it. Nowadays, Sumner and I had this conversation with Cole up on the roof at the land house. Cole had a deal where he had like a 90K profit on the table, and he denied it because he thought he could get a little more money for it. And Sumner and I both agreed, like in our business lately, since beginning of 2024, we've just been taking every offer that comes to the table as long as it's legit and there's earnest money with it. So usually when I get an offer and it's profitable and it makes sense and it's a cash offer, I'll take it. So this was the first one that came through, sold it 31 days later, 70K profit.
One thing I'll add to that, I agree. I do have my team do one counter for every offer we get. It's usually not egregious, but I find that one of two things happen. One, we get just a little more meat on the deal for very little work. And sometimes it's countering terms as well. Like one thing that we've been countering heavily on is non-refundable fees. So get like $1,000 to $2,500 as non-refundable, so we don't get screwed on the deal. And typically people don't flip out. We'll just kind of give a little push. But what I've also found is that like even if I push and then they counter back at their original offer and we accept, I feel like the buyer feels like they won in that transaction. And anecdotally, I feel like they're less likely to fall through because they're like, I beat up this guy. I beat him up and I'm taking this. I know I got a good deal on him. So I like just a little bit of friction, but we're not egregious with it. And it's usually just like a touch more or a slight difference in terms.
And one thing to add to that too, talking to the realtor when you get offers is super important. It's just a lot of asking questions. What do you think about this offer? Do you think that's a lowball offer? Do you think we can get more if we just hold out a couple more weeks? That's something we're always asking. And if he thinks we should counter, we'll usually counter. But we're usually going based off of the realtor's opinion on what we should do. All right. I'm going to pull up one more of mine, and then we can go to one of yours, Sumner.
Yep.
So we sold this one a month ago. And this market, Boone County, Missouri, the metrics were not great. Right now, it's 10 to 20 acres, 1 year sell-through rate for 10 to 20 acres, 56%. This deal actually came from another deal we were targeting. So we wanted to buy this guy's land in a different county. And he's like, well, I've got this piece of land I want to sell, but not the one you're marketing to. So we're like, okay, let's make an offer. We saw that it had a low sell-through rate, which means there's low demand. And that didn't steer us away. We just knew we needed to offer a lower price because we know in these markets, you have to sell really low, below market value to move them, to create that demand. So as it sat, there just wasn't a lot of demand. And we're like, okay, like as you can see, AI comp value thinks it's worth $214,000. We ended up selling this for $115,000 just to move it. And I think we probably could have got a little more. But what we did was we made an offer of $83,000, a double close offer so that we can market it before we owned it. So not only did we lowball, we also didn't really trust the market that well. We didn't trust the property as well. As you can see here, it's a little steep. So we made a double close offer, 3 months. We listed it March 31st and it went under contract March 21st. So in 20 days, it went under contract, and then I have the link right here. Yeah, so that was the property. Those are our listing photos. Again, like listing photos are super important. It's important you guys are getting lot lines on there, drone photos. So I think this river gave it some demand, and you can see it's sold, and then you can see the details somewhere. Let's see. Yeah, listed 125, sold May 7th. So that was after it went under contract. It actually sold May 7th. So 37 days after listing. So that was a solid double close. And we sold it below market value, and we got a really good deal on it so that we can, so that we could sell it below market value. But the margins weren't great, but we just made this deal work in a low demand county by just offering lower, and it ended up working out. So, all right. All right, so I'm pulling up one of Sumner's deals. Which one do you want to look at?
I'll just hop in.
Okay.
Going through them. If you guys like this content so far, again, give it a thumbs up. Let us know. So I'll walk you guys through a couple of my deals. One of the things that I did, so these are all from like the last couple of weeks. I would say these are all from like, I just took a random sampling from like the last 2.5 weeks or so. But I actually deliberately pulled like not great deals. Like I want to show you, I think it's easy to hop on here and be like, you know, look at this like slam dunk deal that we sold. And there'll be like one slam dunk deal in here. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's easy to like cherry pick deals and like you look like a genius. But I want to also show you deals that are like base hits, like things that maybe don't go right, or we don't think we don't make as much as we thought we were going to make, and then why that happened. So I've got the numbers on my phone, so I'll be looking down here, and then I'm just going to share the listings with you guys, and you guys can look at it that way. So yeah, let's do it like that. Give me one sec here, guys. So let's grab. We're going to start with this one, okay? So I'm going to pull this up here, so you guys can see the listing. So a couple of things on this property. One, it's a crazy shape, right? This deal, we bought it for $21,000. We listed it at $44,900, and then we got an offer at $40,000 cash, and we got $1,000 earnest money deposit on it. Okay. So the way that we looked at this deal, obviously it's a horrible shape. The shape is terrible. But what said, you know what, I think there is value here, is it had utility improvements on it, and it had this little shed on it. And so this was kind of the balance for us. It had a couple other things. Honestly, this probably hurt value more than it helped it. And then it had like this little clear driveway leading to it, which I really liked. So that's what kind of tipped the scales for me. But this is a good reminder, like even with these improvements, it's hard to compensate for such a weird looking property, right? And that definitely did hurt us. The other thing is that our realtor didn't get the drone photos to us in time. So we had to just create these inside of Land Insights. These are literally screenshots from Land Insights that my team edited. And so also partially just having, I guess what you could say, the wrong realtor on it. So this was kind of a whoopsies on this deal. Again, it was still a technically like double your money deal, a strong base hit, but not a slam dunk. And there's errors in our ways that you can see on this deal. And so, yeah, it's in a decent market. It's just, I think I maybe overemphasized the value of these things and didn't fully acknowledge the fact that the shape and having a realtor that's so-so was going to hurt us more than the values would help us. All right. Next one, what property is this? Oops. Is this even my deal? What is this? What the heck? I don't even know what property this is. Hold on, guys. Let me see. Is this mine? To be honest, I don't even know what property this is. I don't even know if this is my deal. I'm going to remove. I've never seen that deal in my life. Let's take this one. All right, so this is an interesting deal here. Whoops. This guy here, so it's under contract currently. It's in the dispo process. We got an offer on this one at the beginning of this month. So we just sold this one last week. And this one's pretty cool. So we originally bought it for $26,000. We sold it on financing for like $75,000. I think like a year and a half ago, something like that. Unfortunately, the buyer defaulted on the payments. We relisted it. Our updated basis was $12,000 on the deal, and we got an offer at $64,900, so about $65,000. What's fascinating is this is in what used to be a really good market. It's not really a good market anymore. That shows the fluidity of markets, right? Markets are ever evolving. This was good a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whatever the time frame was. Not so good anymore. Pretty solid listing, I'd say. You know, we've got a pretty dialed in listing here. I'm a fan of it. But yeah, an interesting deal nonetheless. This one sold with third-party financing, so it's going to take a little bit longer to close as they're getting a loan on it. Here's another deal. Let's find the math on this guy here. So this is a good example of like a small deal, right? And I think that like in the beginning, when we don't have the internal resources, we probably end up avoiding deals like this. We just sold this one also last week as well. We probably end up avoiding deals like this. And like if you're a brand new land investor, I don't know if I would be pursuing such tiny little deals. But once we have the internal resources, the additional cost to add another deal to like our conveyor belt is minimal. So this seller owned multiple parcels, kind of like what Rylan talked about. They wanted to sell this one and not the other one, that whole song and dance. Kind of a funky property, right? Not necessarily a dreamy property by any means. It's in a decent market, but a silly property. And so we made a silly offer on it. We offered $3,500 on this deal and listed at $16,900. And then within a few days, we got an offer at $10K. And they are paying for a survey as well. That's coming out of their pocket. So buy for $3,500, sell for $10,000. Again, not really a deal I would market to, but if a seller has a deal like this and I've got the internal resources, what's the extra friction to add something like this in? Really not much, in my opinion. I also think that getting into, what do I say is, getting a deal done with a seller when they own multiple other properties, like something that we actually do want to buy, the best way to get our foot in the door is to fulfill on getting a deal done. And I find it's much easier to come back around and say, all right, what about that other property, right? And sometimes when sellers own portfolios, they don't want to just sell us a portfolio off the rip because they might not trust us. So it's like, all right, give us the crap one, give us the small one, give us the rinky dink one. I'll take it. Let's close it. Let's get it done. Let's show them that we're legit, and we can come back around. This is a deal that took, I think this one took a while to sell. This was a doozy of a property. Yeah, so this is a deal that went sideways for us. How long did this one take? 200 days. We made a big goof on this property. Now, I look at a waterfront property and I say, come on, this has got to be a slam dunk. Who doesn't like a waterfront property? Our realtor comped this out around $60,000. I'm thinking this is an absolute layup. And even to this day, I still can't explain why this deal didn't sell at what I thought it was going to sell. Kind of had all of the characteristics of a deal that I like. Anything in my experience that's got frontage on a river, a lake, a pond, usually an absolute layup. This deal went sideways. It burned us. We bought this one at 25. We just sold this one last week as well. Apparently, all these sales are from last week. So I guess my math was wrong. Not from 2.5 weeks ago. These are all from last week. This sold last week. We had it for 200 days. We bought it for $25,500. We ended up selling it at $36,000. They gave us $1,000 EMD non-refundable. A crappy deal. And I've looked at this every which way. I still don't know what went wrong with this property. I can't explain it. This has got all the characteristics of what I think would go well here. My only hunch is that I was bringing to market inventory that just wasn't desirable. This is a pretty rural county. It's a rural market. And so I'm bringing in a half acre to market to a place that maybe just doesn't have much of an appetite for properties like this. That's the only thing I can describe, right? And that's why it is important to, when we're doing our market selection, when we're pulling our data, am I marketing to things that are actually in demand? Like, are there buyers on the other side for this? Right? I see people picking up like quarter-acre lots in Apache County, Arizona. It's like, well, maybe it's easy to acquire, but does someone actually want to buy this? We fell for our own mistake here, though. And again, we are by no means infallible. We make mistakes consistently in this business. Let's go through some more. Boom, 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 boom. What's this one? So this guy here, this one also sold last week. Yeah, another kind of flop of a deal. Sold it at 26.5. This was a double close. Basis was 18 on this deal. We'll probably make it just a few pennies on it. Why did this happen? I really don't know. I look at this deal. It's got a funky shape. I think that's it. I don't know. I really don't know why this one didn't move, right? We'll probably make $1,000 or $2,000 on this deal. I think a lot of people would have saw this property and would have held out. This had been up for 86 days. Our realtor gave us a feedback that it was worth somewhere in like the $40,000 range. We quickly realized that wasn't real because the viewership and the engagement on it was horrible, right out of the gate. And so when we make a mistake on a deal, I'm out. I'm not trying to hold out for it. I'm not trying to duke it out with the buyer to get the best price. I'm turning and burning inventory. Let's pull a couple fun ones. I guess it's not really exciting to look at shitty deals. I mean, it's honest, but it's not very exciting. So here's another one that we sold last week. I'll share this with you guys. Let's see, one sec. All right, let's see. Boom, boom, boom. So we sold this one last week. This one we sold for, sorry, hold on, guys. We sold this property for, oh, this is an owner finance deal. We sold this property for $10,000 down, $39,900 is the remaining basis or remaining payment with 11% interest over 7 years. We got a $1,000 EMD on this. Now we actually had no basis in this deal. So this was essentially a free deal for us. This is from a subdivide that we did. Really a dreamy little subdivide property here, two-sided road frontage. It was pretty much perfect in every regard. We had already made 6 figures profit on this deal. This was the last little ugly child's lot. And the reason that it was hard to sell this deal is, one, it was densely wooded. These ones here that have like the driveway just flew off the shelves almost immediately. And there's a little wetlands in the back of this deal. So yeah, this was kind of found money on this property. We had bought this for $120 and I think we've already collected like $220 or $230 on it. So this was the icing on the cake. We sold that one last week. I'm gonna grab a couple more. If you guys are liking this, I'll just keep on going with y'all. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see, what's this one? I don't know what that property is. Bum, bum, bum. I'll keep on going if you guys want me to. Here's a cool one. I'll share this. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to pull this up for you guys. All right. So this one we sold a couple weeks ago, maybe like 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And it looks like they've removed our listing. So all of our listing data is gone from this property. It had a beautiful listing. This was like a really, really good listing. But this was an interesting deal. So this is a lead that we've been working for about 2 years now. It was supposed to be a subdivide property initially. Out in Texas, had really good subdivide features on it. Took us 2 years. We finally got down to brass tacks. We just contracted it for a quick flip as a double close. Contracted it at $300,000 and then DC'd it at $390,000. And it took us about 1.5 months, I think, to turn this property. We were really convicted on this deal as a subdivide, cash offer, third-party financing, owner financing. We looked at it every which way. We just couldn't make it work. This deal had so many problems. We had to fix title issues. The seller got really squirrely with us. They saw the listing, yada, yada, yada. but we ended up saving the deal, and it was a really cool story because at the end of this deal, the seller fell in love with our acquisition manager, Jordan. They ended up becoming the best of friends and ended up inviting them to go hunting with them, to go hog hunting with them one of these weekends out in Texas. And so, yeah, it's just like a testament of doing the right thing. Like I think there was many opportunities for this deal to fall apart. Everyone on our team, I would say, just operates with the highest level of integrity, and Jordan's definitely a good case study for that. And so we just, one foot in front of the other. And there's many deals that we go through that have problems, hair on them, friction, seller gets weird. And we have a very high strike rate. I would say right now we probably only lose like 3 deals a year, something like that, that are double close or cash, to where like the seller gets crazy on us. So yeah, let's go through these questions here. Michael says buyer must have asked for listing to be removed to tax purposes. Yeah, you're probably right. Rob, do you purchase every lot before you resell it? Why not just novate them and list them on the MLS? Yeah, we do both, right? I'm not a one-trick pony. I don't believe in just like, oh, it has to be a double close or it has to be a cash flip. This deal was a double close or a novation, whatever you want to call it. So we make 2 offers to sellers. We always provide a range offer to them, and then we let them pick whatever's the best fit for them, right? So do you have time? Cool, you got time. We can pay you a bit more. We can play matchmaker with your property. If you need to close quickly, we can do that as well. So we give options. Michael says, do you try to go to neighbors with smaller parcels? Dude, I've tried with very mixed results with dispoing to neighboring properties. We don't do it really hardly at all anymore.
We did one recently. Actually, I have it right here. We had this deal that was a very low margin deal. We didn't want to have to really spend so much time on it, and it had this old mobile home on it, and I think there was more than one. Apologize for the lag, guys. And then we had our realtor walk the property after we got the purchase agreement signed. And he's like, dude, there's a mobile home with blood inside of it. All story, but the neighbor knew what happened, and there's blood in the mobile home. Remove it. So I just asked the realtor, do you know anybody in the area assignment for this? So it turns out there's an Amish farm.
No one can hear you. All right, we should be back now. I don't know what happened there. Sorry, guys. Can you hear us now?
I have to start from the beginning.
No, you're good. I don't know when it cut out.
Anyways, we ended up assigning this deal to an Amish farmer down the street who was willing to deal with the mobile home situation, because at the end of the day, if we listed that, like someone probably was going to make a contingent on us removing the mobile home. So we just assigned it. So that being said, I don't really reach out to neighbors. I'll have my realtor do that in some instances. But if you do want to reach out to your realtors in your due diligence, there's this tool called freelandscapes.com that you can use. And you can just plug in the neighbor's mailing address and just get a free landskip.
Yeah, I'm going to show you guys this. This is super cool. It's called freelandscapes.com. So it's, as the name implies, it's free skip tracing. I'll put the link in the chat. But yeah, you just put in the information here and then it just skip traces it for free. So it's kind of like, what's that tool? It's like what's that skip tracing tool people use? Like not been verified, but like the one that everyone uses. The ones that always upsell you. It's like, oh, you searched it, pay $20 to get the result. So this is totally free to use. So this is cool for like trying to find a seller or a neighbor or whoever. I'll put this in the chat for you guys. Pretty saucy little tool. And I haven't seen any weird upsells on it or anything. You just, what the heck? Rylan's using the PC, man. It drives me crazy. What the frack?
Just type it.
Okay. I'm gonna try one more time. I feel motivated to get this right. Oh yeah, we need to get Rylan a new computer, man. He's using a PC and it's slow as all heck. Bang. Bang. All right. I put a slash. Remove the slash on it. Free landscapes. Yeah, Bodie says it's like True People Search. It's like True People Search, but free. Guys, put your questions in the chat. Let's bang some out, y'all. Lightning Land Capital. Ever do the Shiraga buy note at closing thing? I don't. We keep our notes. If you can, I would keep them. It works. I know a lot of people that have sold notes to him, but I would rather keep them. What is the realtor commission on a 5% listing or 10K listing rather? Yeah, usually for like deals under 25K, we'll either just pay them a higher percentage. You can pay them like 7-8% to make it worth it their while, or you can just do a flat commission. So $1,000, $500, whatever you want to agree on. So for the smaller deals, it's easier just to set that as a flat rate. And I find that helpful because on the smaller deals, I'm more likely to get an owner finance offer. And so I don't want to have to pay out 8 points on like a really valuable owner finance offer where the total sales price is high, even though I might only be collecting a small amount up front. So I typically try to structure that. Ironwood land, 31 and 20 days on market seems super fast. Is that your average? What's your average days on market?
I haven't calculated in a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're very contract heavy. So we'll get deals and sometimes they just don't make sense and there'll be a double close and they'll be listed for 90 days and then they don't sell because we just didn't take time. Or like we wanted to take the risk because there was no risk really at the end of the day with the double close. In terms of stuff we buy cash, they usually do turn over in like 30 to 60 days on average because we're very confident in that deal. But double closes, you never know. And my numbers are going to be skewed because we're taking on a lot of contracts.
Maria says, Rylan or Sumner, are you doing novations in South Carolina? I just purchased any marketing them. No, we're not doing double. I'm not doing double closes in South Carolina. Just buying cash. There are workarounds, right? You can have an agent bring pocket buyers. You could assign the contract. You could like create like a generic listing that you put on Facebook and then market the property that way and then try to generate buyers that way. It's just really, it becomes impossible if you're trying to list a double close on the MLS. That's where it gets tricky. Okay. MacBook Air joined the real world. That's hilarious, Ross. I'm more of a MacBook Pro guy myself, I'm be honest. Yeah. Michelle, who or what do you rely on heavy for finding a suitable buyer? Well, ironically, nice shameless plug, it actually starts with Land Insights. There's two reasons why I say that. One, the market that we work in, obviously. And then two, the realtors that we find through Land Insights. If you solve for those two things, like those will go work on your behalf, right? Okay, you need to create a pretty listing as well. I also do that in Land Insights. If you check those three boxes, you don't need to worry about finding a suitable buyer. That's not really your job at that point. The work is done. You've controlled the controllables, and then it'll just start kind of playing out in your favor. So that's the work. Problem is most people aren't even doing that work. Cleo, I'm 20 years old and I do feel land flipping. I just closed the deal today for five-figure profit. But I'm really eager to get into rural recreation land flipping. What would you suggest for me to do? I mean, I say it all the time. I sound like a broken record. Invest in education. I know, oh, you're biased, Sumner. Cool. Don't work with me. I don't care. Go work with someone, but don't just take the 5 figures or whatever you made and try to deploy it on something that you haven't done before. I just think that's dangerous in this market. So find someone and work with them, right? That's my recommendation. Find a mentor, shadow someone, be an intern, whatever. Like if I wanted to learn subdivides or entitlements or whatever, I wouldn't just go and blast out marketing and say, let me figure it out. I would find someone that's doing it and be like, yo, teach me. Same thing for any of the subtle strategies, curative title, whatever. Mitigate risk and accelerate how long it takes to get things done by just finding someone to mentor you. And I think it's a hidden strategy to go and like work for someone. Be like, yo, I will be your minion. I'll do things for you. Just, I want to be a fly on the wall. One thing that I'll share with you guys that might be helpful. We've had literally hundreds of people go through this. It's our beginner program. God, this mouse is crazy. It's our 90-day zero to hero program. Cleo, that might be something for you to look at as well. So it's a case study program that we did with Dennis, and we just kind of like documented his whole entire journey, and you get to be a fly on the wall for Dennis building a land business. They've grown to 7 figures, and that all started from this. Like all of it was just inside here, and it's all documented in here. So that's cool. That's a good place to start. I will put that in the chat for you. Cleo, does this business model work well in Alabama? Cleo, unfortunately, that's the wrong question to be asking. The question is, what the heck? But is marketing dollars? That's the question to be asking. One, I can't blanket an entire state and say this is a good state, this is a bad state. There are good counties, bad counties. Hell, even within a bad county, there's a good submarket, a good subdivision, a good zip code, whatever. So we really don't know, right? So I can't tell you, but the mechanics of the business work anywhere. But you need to understand market selection and understand, is this a market that I should be working in? I'm going to get out of this page because this is causing me some trouble here. And I'll share this link for you, Cleo. Aging, and I'm about to throw Rylan's laptop out of the window because this thing is so painfully slow. All right. Ross, are you mailing Georgia with any direct mail laws and fines? I haven't mailed Georgia, but that's not because I wouldn't mail it. I know plenty of people that are. You just got to update your letter, and RPM, Rocket Print Mail, will do that for free for you. So yeah, people are still getting deals there. People are still successful there. I haven't marketed to Georgia in a while, but that's just has nothing to do with the laws. I just haven't been working in Georgia for whatever reason. But yeah, it still works fine. I think the response rates are lower with that stuff for sure. Maybe that's compensated by the fact that more people are scared to work there. So maybe it's a little more on balance. I don't know, but it's still viable. Cleo, what are some mindset shifts that you learned early in this land flipping game that you still use today? I mean, I would apply this to business in general. It's not even just about land flipping. It's almost always who, not how. Almost always. Someone knows something that I needed to know. I'm going to go find that person. It's just much easier that way, right? Like we're creating patents for land insights. Rylan, myself, Kyle, we could read up on patent law and try to understand how patents work, or we can just find someone that's a patent attorney. Okay. So anyways, whatever the example is, who, not how. Same thing with double closing. People are like, Sumner, I can't double close in this state. I'm like, wait, I've done a double close in that state. What do you mean you can't double close there? Oh, I just know the right person and you don't. I've got the right agent. I've got the right title company. So who, not how is an interesting framework to kind of think about everything in business through. And then when it's like, you look at someone that's really at the top of their game, I don't know, it could be like Jeff Bezos. Like he just knows things that I don't know. There's just an information gap there. I bet if I hung out around Jeff Bezos, I'm probably exponentially more likely to become a billionaire. So who, not how. I think that's a good framework. Are you giving every interested seller a range offer via tax before adding to your CRM? Yep, we are qualifying via price. There are some outlier situations when we don't, but 9 out of 10 people, yes. Ironwood Land. If I prepay for Land Insights and Lake, can I get swag? Yes, if you prepay Ironwood Land, we will send you a company signed t-shirt. We'll get the founders to sign that bad boy for you and we'll mail it out. It'll be like the one that Rylan's wearing. Actually, we got some new swag on the way, so maybe we'll get you an even better shirt. Boom. Cool. Alan Douglas, Brittany wants to be your Facebook minion. Okay, if Brittany emailed us, we'll take a look at it and reach out. Appreciate that, Alan. Michelle, Close Clench Jr. want to do analysis by county. Pick like 10 states and do the analysis. Get a data analyst based on what type of prop. Sorry, Michelle, I'm not understanding the question. Michelle, do you offer financing for solid investors? You mean a payment plan for LIA? I think that's what you mean. If so, yes, we do offer payment plans for LIA. Oh, Alan said she emailed last night. Okay, we'll get a look at that and get a response out. Bodie, dang, I got to start kicking it with Jeffy B. I don't know who Jeffy B is either. I'm confused. All right, guys, any more questions in the chat? Freelandskips.com. What else? Anything else we can help with? We got a guest appearance. Ryan, do you have anything to say?
Oh, this free landscaping tool saved my life. I started skip tracing and cold calling off my personal phone. I got marked as spam pretty quick, but
Nice. What else do you got to say?
that's it. Who do we got?
39 people so far. Just
Oh, it's
wrapping up.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, very exciting.
What do you have to say? Anything? What are you using Land Insights for in your business?
Land Insights, man, what am I using it for? Getting more dialed in, sending mail. So I used to be sending a lot of text and doing it just on a large scale. Doing mail, picking zip codes, all that sort of stuff. Data platform is pretty unmatched. You can get really weird with it. So I've been getting super weird. Well, nothing funny about that. Just having this that I can use over and over and over again. So yeah, Land Insights saved my life. But again, Sumner stole my girlfriend.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it. That's some comedic relief for you guys. So actually a couple things. A common question is inside of Land Insights, do we store your data? Yes. What I mean by it is like if you export a list a year from today, like you would still have that data inside the platform and you'll always be able to go back and download it. I know a lot of tools actually remove your data after a certain time period. So if I pull a data set today, 6 months ago, I come in, I have to re-pull it. They bill me for it, which I think is crazy. So all your data sets will always live in here forever, and you can always come back and re-download them for any reason. Also, so one thing I'll share with you, we just shipped this today. You guys will see we have a new menu layout inside of Land Insights. We're always trying to improve the UI and UX behind Land Insights because the thing is, like, you could have the most powerful tool ever, but if the UI sucks, no one's ever going to use it or know how to use it correctly. So we're consistently shipping new UI updates. So here's one that we just shipped today. This is a new menu platform inside of here. See, there's kind of drop down sub menus for these categories here. The reason that we did this is if you've been a long time Land Insights user, you know that I did not know your computer was touchscreen. That's crazy. This thing looks like it's from 1995, but somehow it's touchscreen. That's wild. So if you've been a long time Land Insights user, you know that there was always a weird disconnect. So where the market research and the data platform almost felt like two separate tools, and they kind of were because they were built at totally different time periods. And so like the UI was a bit different. They were always a little bit segmented. Now we've brought them so it's all cohesive. It's all really intuitive. And this new menu layout kind of ties everything together. You'll see inside of Land Insights, we call these like there's a few pillars for Land Insights, right? And you can see these broken down here. Really, there's what I think of 4 pillars as to why Land Insights works. The first thing is market analytics. The second thing is the AI data platform. The third thing is comping and underwriting. And the fourth thing is dispositions. Those are the 4 pillars behind Land Insights. Those are kind of like the force multipliers. So you kind of see this broken down here. So yeah. Aaron says ETA on AI slope filtering. That'll be out in 2 weeks. And we'll have 2 AI slope filters. The super easy AI, click it and let it do it for you. Or the let me come in and really manually fine tune and tweak this. More details of the girlfriend switch. That's funny. Oscar, true people. Yeah, free landscapes replaces true people. UI is stunning. Thank you, Bodie. All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we can wrap up here unless you guys have anything else for us. Any last minute questions, final thoughts, parting words? All good? Cool, guys. Well, thank you everyone for sticking around. Hopefully this was a helpful training for you guys. Cool way just to hang out on a Friday. landinsights.co/apply if you guys want to get 1,000 free hot seller
Wait,
leads.
the giveaway.
Oh, shoot. The giveaway. We got to do a random number generator. Can you pull up the chat? Again, if you guys haven't yet, we're giving away 3,000 free leads. So stay with us for 1 sec. You have to give this video a like. You have to put a number in the chat, 1 through 100, 1 submission per person, okay? Let's do the random number generator. You guys have got about 30 seconds to add that in, and then we'll collect your email and we'll email over that hand-selected market, AI scrub data, and we'll skip trace it for you. No, Ross, you got to put it in the actual comment section for the video. So not the chat, but the comment section. They're not putting it in the put it in the chat.
Yeah. So I'll do the generator.
Can you see it in the comments though?
I'll put it on the.
No. Oh, Michael says, don't think there's comments until it's live is over. Okay, thank you, Michael. You think you're right. All right, guys, scratch what I said. Put it in the chat. Let's run up the chat. We'll give you guys like another 30 seconds or so. Apologies on my part. Give it a like and put a number 1 through 100 in the chat for 3,000 hot seller leads. Let's go. Bang, bang, bang. All right, keep on running it up. See if we can get all 39 of you to put it in the chat. Then we'll get it kicked off. Ding, ding, ding. All right, we'll give like 10 more seconds. And we're going to do the random number generator on Rylan's phone. We'll show it to you guys so you guys can actually see. Bing, bang, boom. All right, 3, 2, 1. Show them so they can see on the screen.
All right, we're going 1 to 100.
Random number generator.
49.
49. So who's closest to 49? We got Rob at 47. He might be our closest. It looks like Rob's the winner, huh? Rob, you are the winner. You had 47. We put 49. Rob, put your email in the chat, and we were going to get that data emailed over to you. Put your email in the chat. Otherwise, we can't send it to you, Rob. Winner, chicken dinner. And then some of you guys are a bit late on the submission. Sorry. All right, Rob, put your email in the chat so we can get that sent over. Congrats to you, my friend. Hopefully you lock up some deals with that data. That would be pretty epic. All right, we got to stay on until Rob puts his email otherwise. All right, Rob, where are you at, my friend? Could be a lot of Robs. Be right back. Wait.
Rob, you gonna send the email? Maybe he's making one. Oh, maybe it got taken down. Maybe you can't share emails. Rob, just go ahead and email hello@landinsights.co. So hello@landinsights.co, and just say that you won the 3,000 free data with skip tracing. So just go ahead and email them. But yeah, I think it's taking down your email. So email hello@landinsights.co, and we'll make sure we send that over. Ross asks, Rylan, is it the house party central? We've thrown a couple parties. We threw a LAN party over the weekend. That was fun. I think we're going to throw a big 4th of July party. So a couple fun ones here and there, but I don't want to thrash the house. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end the call. Appreciate it, y'all. It was great catching up.
Bye,
and
guys.
have a great weekend.
Thank you.